Hey everybody, welcome back. I am Keith Wallace. This is Alana Zerbe, my partner in crime here at After Wine School. And today we are talking wine and health, the facts, the fictions, and everything in between.
That's right, Keith. And we've touched on wine as medicine in some prior episodes. If you want to go back and listen to our podcast on ancient wine, medieval wine, and of course, we tackled prohibition.
I love that. I do love that episode.
There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah.
So we have touched on this before, but we really want to drill down in today's episode on some of the myths, some of the misreading, so to speak, of scientific studies that have made the headlines in the past year. We are coming to wine's defense here.
Absolutely. I am, as everyone knows, I am a champion of wine and all goodness within wine.
Well, I mean,
like there's going to be a wine religion, and I was going to be one of the apostles. And I put a kibosh to that. I just thought they were, they wanted to dress me up like a cherub and like float me around, and it just was, the diaper was too much. So I thought maybe this was going to go in the wrong way. I thought it was more of a, like some sort of fetish thing.
Well, we're off to a great start because clearly we're earning your trust in this introduction. But no, just to put things in context, I mean, wine has been with us for something like 10,000 years. Wine has throughout history been considered actually as a partner in health. One of my favorite anecdotes is there are places in the world, Argentina is one, or at least was recently, where you could order wine in hospital. That was something that was not seen as antithetical to health. So throughout Greek history, Hippocrates used wine as medicine. The Romans, of course, centered wine in their culture. It was very important to their empire. And then in the Middle Ages, we have the monks, Catholic monks, cultivating the vine for use in religious ceremonies. So wine has been with us, and in fact, wine has been more reliable than water for most of human history.
Almost all of our history up until very recently. It was always, and that's why, if you have Italian parents, you're more likely you had a little wine with your water or the other way around consistently. It's a part of our ancient history and modern history as well. The Romans actually even used wine during surgeries.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. So I actually remember in the 90s, I was working as a chef, actually. And I remember when 60 Minutes came up with their French Paradox episode. That changed America. Well, largely Americans were at that moment starting to drink wine, like more so than they had for a long time, since the 1800s. If you don't know what I'm talking about, our Prohibition episode is a really great place to start on that. But that moment, the conceit was something that's very true to this day. The French, despite the fact that they eat so much cheese and so much fats and drink so much wine, despite this, their cardiovascular health is so much better than ours. Like on almost all health metrics, they actually are so much healthier than we are. And the question was why? And so the study came out, and they identified one specific phenolic group called resveratrol. And resveratrol is just one of the pigments that makes red grapes red. That's all it is. They identified this, and they proved that mice were much healthier. But the problem was the amount of resveratrol a human would have to take was an insane amount. So over time, that study was shown to be not complete. But the problem is that they never went back and said, okay, we see what is out there, that they're healthier than us. And okay, it's not just the resveratrol, what else? Instead, they said, okay, nope, this didn't work. It doesn't tell the whole story, so we're just going to drop it. But the truth is that Mediterranean diet clearly works well. And we all hear about it. Mediterranean diet this, Mediterranean diet that, olive oil, fish.
Blue zones.
Yes. Oh, yeah, the blue zones. Well, a key parts of that is actually having wine with dinner. And that's really the thing that, in my opinion, actually is the thing that we should all be focused on, is that having wine with dinner is an amazingly healthy, great thing to do.
So 30 years on from
Yeah,
that
yeah.
seminal 60 Minutes episode, there has been a backlash. It
Oh, yeah.
hasn't proven to be as simple as the Mediterranean diet, but also this new prohibition movement that we seem to be experiencing. I personally believe it's hugely related to the overconsumption that happened during COVID. And
Oh, yeah.
I think doctors who are already strained to their limit have seen a lot of ill effects on patients because of overconsumption. But generally speaking, what they did is they looked at population studies and extrapolated big generalizations from them. And those generalizations do not account for differences in consumption patterns, which if you're a binge drinker, binge drinking is bad. There is no doubt about that. Look up the definition of binge drinking if you don't know it. Absolutely avoid binge drinking.
I honestly think one of the reasons why, like, neither you or I, like, overconsumed during the pandemic was because wine was naturally, like, we would have a bottle, like, have a couple glasses with dinner.
Lifestyle, yeah.
We don't drink because we're anxious. We
Yeah.
drink because we're happy. During COVID, when you and I were rebuilding our business, we had to start doing all these things online. And when we're stressed, we don't drink.
Exactly.
So no, it was, it ended up being
It's a different experience than
It
a lot
was,
of people.
yeah.
The studies that the WHO is relying upon do not take a lot of these factors into account. And so there have been rebuttals. Now you have one on our website.
Oh,
It's a great
absolutely.
Rebuttal.
Yep.
Phenology.com has a great rebuttal. Keith uncovered some pretty interesting information.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things about your diet, things in the common diet that you should be concerned about. And these are actually ranked as higher risk than wine on the WHO's own website. So things like instant ramen. Now, we all occasionally indulge in
love
instant ramen, but it is so bad for you.
Yes.
It is. The sodium is so bad. Sweetened iced tea.
Yep,
Sweet
very much.
teas are just
Big
so
killer.
high in
Yep.
sugar. And then I'm going to talk a little bit later about some of my own personal experiences, but I've known for a long time to avoid processed meats.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
things like pepperoni have
Yeah.
a lot of nitrates, and those are considered to be more harmful than wine by the WHO.
Oh, yeah. They're all considered much more carcinogenic
Yes.
than what. Oh, it's crazy the amount of things you could say that are at a higher rate of concern. Like pretty much every single kid's cereal out there. Fruit Loops, which, it's funny they call it FROOT, not FR, because there's no actual fruit in them. They can't actually call them Fruit Loops. They gotta have to call them Fruit Loops. I hope the people online can actually, or people listening can understand the difference there.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. And I love that. No, that was a lot of research. And that research wasn't just on their website. It's actually through their manuals and their research documents.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really helpful to put in context if there are other findings.
Exactly. And because I love science, I really do. When you deal in science and research, one of the things you learn is that you have to ask why, what's the systems around it? Why are you getting the information you're getting? And I've talked about this before. Actually, I talked about this when we were talking in our episode on prohibition and why and how it has affected us to this day. And it has deep effects in modern society, including in how research is done. So, for instance, in America, the only way you can get federal funding for research on alcohol is if it's revolving around alcoholism, not alcohol. And that's a problem because this eschews research greatly. Think about this for a second. If you see a lot of modern research around marijuana research is typically, you see, what are the beneficial elements, right? And then also what the negatives are. So you'll see a much wider version because they're thinking about marijuana, specifically THC, as a possible medicine. And that's also the case with like psilocybin mushrooms as well. What are the beneficial elements? What could be medicinal about this? But when you look at research in America, in the United States, about alcohol, what you're not seeing it is treated as medicine or as a potential medicinal benefits, but only as a health threat. So not medicine, health threat. So we can see how this skews the research we get. Every scientific journal, they want to publish provable effects. So if all you're doing is saying wine or alcohol in general can only be a negative, they are only going to publish things that show that it has a negative effect. So you don't get all the studies that could have been written and say, oh, this had no effect or this had beneficial effect. You're not going to see those because we're only looking at it in one direction. Largely. That's not 100% true, but that's directionally true in that the overwhelming majority, because funding dictates. If there was money out there, if I had $2 million to show that bubblegum had a negative health effect, then you would see a lot of research trying to prove that because the money's there.
Right.
So, yeah, any billionaires out there who want to fund ridiculous research, I have so many ideas. So many. So talk to me. Talk to me. My phone number is not. Please don't.
Yeah, no, but there have been studies, and you gave me some great research about the benefits of moderate wine intake.
Yes.
There actually are studies.
Yes, there are.
So, for example, moderate wine intake is linked in studies to lower obesity and metabolic syndrome rates. Resveratrol supports blood sugar and insulin sensitivity, thereby lowering diabetes risk. Alcohol in wine can increase thermogenesis, which is slight calorie burn when metabolized. And you wrote an article about this.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually the most read on the Whitesville Philadelphia's website. Get skinny by drinking wine. You know, tongue in cheek, it was talking about the research, but it's surprisingly, you want to get people to read scientific research, tell them they can get skinny.
But it is out there
It is.
that moderate
Yes.
wine consumption actually can show some benefits.
Oh, God. There's so much out there. And, you know, one of the things I'm my doctor, like, you know, I am in my later 50s and I'm a lifelong diabetic. So, you know, my doctor is always surprised at how healthy I am. And I have actually moved my doctor from somebody who was like, oh, alcohol, to like, oh, if he's doing it and he's in this good a shape comparatively to all his other patients, yeah, I've turned my doctor into a wine drinker, which is nice. He's amazing. Dr. Dan, I love you so much. But anyways, the one thing that they always ignore is this generational knowledge we have. We've known this not for a decade, not two, I think it's about 30 years. It consistently shows. And I remember even as a kid hearing about research that was very similar to what I'm going to tell you right now. It's the J curve. The J curve. So picture a J, right? So there's the small part, right? The little part of the J, the small, then you have the high part, right? So that small part of the J, right? That right there, that is actually moderate to light wine drinkers. Right? They are by far the healthiest people. When you do a study of drinking, especially wine drinkers or any kind of alcohol, moderate drinkers live longer and are healthier during that lifespan. Now, the next healthiest group are actually non-drinkers. Yeah, that's right. Non-drinkers actually have a slightly less of a lifespan than us, moderate wine drinkers. And then what you also have is then at the very end, the worst, right? The people who have the absolute worst outcomes, heavy drinkers. So if you're a heavy drinker, your life outcomes are really not great at all. But if you're a mono drinker, your lifespan and your quality of life are going to be much better than anybody else's statistically. This is not for everybody, but it is consistently and directionally true. And that's really important for people to understand. That's like saying, I like candy. I'll eat a candy bar once a week or so. Putting me in the group of someone who eats 10 a day and saying these are the same kinds of people. Or like if you like pizza and having a slice of pizza, you're not the same person who's eating 2 pizzas a night. You're not the same kind of person. Yeah.
But this idea that there's no safe level collapses all of this.
It does. It really does. Because when you're looking things in aggregate like this, it's bad science. It just feels intentional. This desire to actually make alcohol something evil. When actually processed food, sugar, salt are all overconsumption, are much higher and worse for you, for everyone. And we feed these things to children. Mm-hmm. We specifically don't give wine to children. But yet, here we go. Fruit Loops, like I said, Captain Crunch, hot dogs, oh my God, bacon, sausage, all these things, much more unhealthy than wine. So, yeah, according to even the WHO, even them, but they don't say zero tolerance for sugar because they know no one would do that.
We'll take a moment to acknowledge that there is data that for certain types of cancers,
yes,
if you have liver disease, if you have brain or mental health issues that your doctor has spoken to you about. Certainly, there are instances where wine can have a deleterious effect
Oh,
on your
absolutely.
health. So we are not sidestepping those. However, as a former cancer patient, cancer survivor myself, I know from firsthand experience when it comes to your diet, there's so much out there that can be misleading. And mostly what your doctors want from you, number one, is to not lie to them.
Yeah.
But also, number two, to adhere as closely to a normal diet as possible. When I was undergoing cancer treatment, there was something called the China study. This was a study that showed to survive cancer and stay cancer free, you definitely wanted to abstain from meat and even better, become a vegan. And there were, even 20 years ago, almost now, there were cancer influencers,
Oh,
people
that's so
who
gross.
got rich off of this. And the China study now is a joke. You can very easily find things to debunk it online. But that wasn't the case at that time. And so I got very caught up in this idea of radically changing my diet. And my doctor was very mad at me and told me to absolutely stop while I was getting treatment because I needed to be consistent. So we definitely want to be sensitive and acknowledge that for certain conditions, of course, be aware, but being moderate in consumption of anything is probably going to be the best course of action.
Yeah. And honestly, though, one of the best things for you, and we consistently shows, is, anxiety and stress are the real killers.
Absolutely.
At least twice. Oftentimes, like 3 times a week, I am making sure that I'm making dinner and having a real decent wine. It doesn't have to be a great wine. And what I think people miss out is that it's not, you don't have to make dinner like this exceptional thing that is hard and complicated. It should be simple, it should be easy, and it should be enjoyable just to make it, and then enjoyable to eat it. Even whether by yourself or with your partner or your family, it should not be stressful. And you don't have to have a fancy wine, right? With dinner, like if you ever look at how Europeans, like how the Mediterraneans actually cook and eat, they're not serving great wines. It's just a local basic white or red wine. They're not spending a lot of time cooking. Like they're making things that are simple, easy, that are local. It doesn't matter what it is. It's actually the fact that if you make it, you're going to have far less processed food. You are enjoying yourself making it. Do you have tomato sauce? Make a pasta, right? It doesn't have to be hard. Have a bottle of red wine or white wine with it. Just enjoy yourself. That's it. If you can manage to do that, you are on your way to a much healthier lifestyle.
And I'll add on to what Keith is saying. I co-sign all of that. And I would just add, be mindful.
Yes.
Where we all get into trouble with eating and drinking is when we are doing it mindlessly.
Yes.
So bring some mindfulness to your eating and drinking, savor and enjoy what you have in front of you. And you will have much less stress and much less concern about things like wine negatively impacting your health.
That's it. More joy, healthier lifestyle.
Less stress.
And there we are. That's the fundamentals. And all of this is actually based on reams of research. And so, yeah, if we can talk about this comfortably and just easily, you can too. And just enjoy your freaking life, people. And I would just say, also will give you the most comfort and most joy, and probably will cure all cancers and will allow you to live until you're 120, is to like and subscribe.
That's right.
Follow us on our journey.
5 stars.
Yes, 5 stars. And if you're really interested in wine and you like our approach to wine, then by all means, sign up for the National Wine School, earn your sommelier certifications that way. That the truly holistic way of thinking about things. And yeah, if you get into the advanced program there, I even talk about all of this, and we have an entire 8-week program on ancient wine and how wine starts civilization, largely due to its health benefits.
And what do we have coming up next time, Keith?
Okay, next time we are going to talk about the gaping hole in my heart. No, we're going to be talking about enclosures.
Yeah. And folks, if you happen to be in the Philadelphia area, as always, please come by and see us in a class. Keith teaches, I teach. We're always there. We're there to serve. And also, if you enjoy this podcast and you'd like to see it in video form, go
Yes.
to our YouTube channel, which is Wine School USA.
Fantastic, folks. See you next time.
Thank you, everyone. We love doing this. If you have any comments, please reach out. Until then, I'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Great, honey.
That was fantastic.